This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shasheena Rolle. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news, a verdict handed down today in the unnatural sex trial of former 8 Mile Rock teacher Andre Burbal. It took jurors in the nation's capital a little more than 3 hours to return 2 unanimous guilty verdicts in the Burbal unnatural sex trial. The 51-year-old Trinidadian and former art teacher at 8 Mile Rock High School showed no reaction to the verdict. Sentencing is set for May 9th, and a probation report will be compiled until that time. Burbal will remain behind bars. Now, the former art teacher faced 2 counts of unnatural sexual intercourse with a former student for incidents that occurred between January and June 2002, while the victim was in the 7th grade, and again when the victim was in the 9th grade between September 2003 and January 2004. Further details on Burbal's guilty verdict will come at 7 p.m. 2 American visitors accused of killing Pennsylvania youth leader Carl Yoder in Allentown, Bimini back on March 13th was charged in New Providence today. The 2 Americans were both charged with manslaughter before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt. Now, we spoke with the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Emerick Seymour, about the latest development.
Tyler Michael Wallace, and I spell the last name V-A-L-E-S. He's a 19-year-old of Key Largo, Florida. And the second one is Robert Francis Swatch, aged 62 years, of Gaylordsville, Connecticut. Both individuals are charged with manslaughter. When it comes to murder, there has to, intent has to be proven, and of course, our investigations is suggestive of the fact that it may not have been the intent of the individuals concerned to really kill or cause the death of this individual, hence manslaughter.
In court today, the 2 accused were not required to enter a plea. A voluntary bill of indictment is expected to be filed. Police say Yerger's body was found in the garden of a local resort in Bimini with multiple stab wounds. 4 persons were initially arrested in connection with the incident. ACP Seymour says from all accounts, it would appear that the fatal stabbing took place after an alleged altercation.
The 4 suspects were crew members on board a vessel that was moored at the marina of the resort in question. And somehow our investigation suggests that the victim would have found himself or ended up on the vessel, which further suggested that a struggle ensued as a result, and of course which escalated on to the dock area. Where the eventual stabbing would have taken place. As far as we're concerned, and as far as our investigation suggests, the victim was not known to the arrested persons.
Now, both accused were granted $35,000 bail, and they're expected to return to the Bahamas on May 19th for service of voluntary bill of indictment papers. In other news, Freeport Harbor and Bahamas Oil Refining Company, or BORCO, defending their standards of safety operations. The companies have been the focus of a dispute with members of the newly formed Bahamas Maritime Pilotage Association under the leadership of its managing director, Aaron Ferguson. Ferguson raised several concerns over incidents of anchorage and lack of training for pilots. While in separate press statements, both companies refuted those claims, asserting that their safety records are supported on many levels. They also questioned the intentions of the BPMA, which is attempting to set up an independent organization for pilots. BORCO officials maintain that the clear intention is to establish a for-profit monopoly enterprise for financial gain. As for the claims of lack of training, the Freeport Harbor Company made it clear that it has consistently complied with the recommendations of the International Maritime Organization, or the IMO, requirements, and that's inclusive of ensuring ongoing training for all pilots and maritime industry personnel. Also in news this evening, last month, those marine pilots handed in a 30-day notice of resignation as they moved to organize themselves into a private entity. Now, in the wake of the situation comes an appeal for an amicable resolution. Joan Davis-Roll has this story.
They should not be penalized for standing up for that. And if they are penalized, someone needs to step in and stop it.
Principal owner and businessman Ray Dowell of the Overseas Marine Group weighing in on the controversial resignation of marine pilots here on Grand Bahama. Dowell says he has assisted in the training of many of these Bahamian professionals working at the Bahamas Oil Refinery Company, BORCO, and the Freeport Harbor. Pilots whom he described as some of the most outstanding marine pilots in this region.
Everywhere else in the world, they are contracted. Here, they're working for a company. In a lot of other parts of the world, they're contracted because of certain requirements. They don't want conflicts of interest. They don't want, a lot of different factors. But I think mostly they want that the talent, the Bahamian talent, are actually being paid what the standard is in the rest of the world.
Dowell says some common ground must be attained, and all parties involved should work towards this end.
I hold nothing against any of the companies for trying to make money, because that's what they're in the business to do. They're in the business to make money. But at the same time, the pilots that are fighting for their rights, they shouldn't be victimized or told to be shut up. How they go about it, they're trying. They might not go about it, the exact right way. BORCO or the big companies might not go about it just the exact right way. But all I have to say is that the two of them sit down and try to come to some kind of an agreement. Don't one versus the other stand on their heels and say, this ain't going to happen, or this, shut up, or vice versa. If you don't do this, I can really hurt you. There's got to be a give and a take.
He offered this advice while underscoring the vital role these marine pilots play within the maritime industry.
I believe that the only way that this is going to work is if they get somebody to mediate this from the outside, like urban renewal or like government, to stand up and say, these are boys or men that have strived to be in the perfection. It's not easy to take that trade. It's not easy to do the job that they do. I mean, it's 24/7. There's stress. I know what it's like to try to bring in a big ship against the dock and try to... It's nothing to play with. A lot of people's lives are at stake. A lot of things are at stake, and every single time that stress is on those men.
Joan Davis Rolle, ZNS Network News.
Young people on Grand Bahama getting the opportunity to be professionally trained through the government's national initiative. Tonight, Sabrina Brown tells us that the National Training Agency is presently conducting registration 2 weeks ahead of the start of the program on this island.
The National Training Agency began its official registration process at the C.A. Smith Complex on Tuesday for young people between the ages of 16 and 29 years.
We're asking them to bring in their birth certificate or passport, their national insurance card, or a voter's card, anything that has a personal ID that can identify them as a Bahamian. Then we're asking for 2 photos, a resume, references, any certification that they may have, just to back up their support, because the National Training Agency, our main object is to train them, get them certified, and of course get them employed.
Office Manager Norma Pyfram says although the first day got off to a slow start, the agency has already received a number of applications.
We have done our registration with the help of Urban Renewal. They went to the different centers, and I've contacted them, and they've given me their count, and so far about 200 in total thus far.
Pyfram says the agency is working with a number of industries in this training program.
We are partnering with the Grand Bahama Shipyard, the Freeport Container Port, and other agencies that will assist us to get persons to train in the areas that we really need to be trained.
According to Pyfram, the agency plans to accommodate up to 300 young people in the first training session. The program is expected to start on March 31st, and she notes that the first 4 weeks of training is mandatory.
After the mandatory training, there is an examination. They must pass that examination. Then there is another training for specific areas, whether you want to be a receptionist or whether you want to go to the shipyard, and those training can start from 8 weeks or 10 weeks. And after that training, there's a certification. You must pass that exam. And the examination, the syllabus we are using is from City and Guilds.
Registration will run through Thursday at the C.A. Smith Complex from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Sabrina Brown, ZNS Network News.
Stay with us. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition continues right after this.